Hey deal makers, welcome to the show where it's all about financial freedom with real estate. Let's do this. To stop paying taxes that you don't have to pay. And what we're talking about here in the episode today is how smart investors swap till they drop to build wealth faster. And today I'm hanging out with Louis Rogers, founder of Capital Square and author of Section 1031 Exchanges, How to Swap Till You Drop. Now, Louis has been in this tax advantage investing base for 4 decades. In fact, he and his company invented the term tenants in common that we use today and take for granted. And it's helped thousands of investors defer millions in capital gains. And we get into why 1031 exchanges are simpler than most people think. And one of the things that surprised me that I learned is that 1031 exchange, as we mostly know today, using the tenant in common or the tick approach, is actually outdated in favor of something called a DST. Well, what is that? You're going to have to listen to find out what that is, because according to Louis, no one does a tick anymore. And this is surprising because that's exactly what we do. So very interesting knowledge. I never heard that before. Also, he describes how you can go from a simple rental to eventually exchanging into a REIT by changing the different ways to exchange. Absolutely fascinating. And so I'd never heard that before either. And then he talks about some of the 2 biggest mistakes that he sees investors make with taxes, plus what you can do if you've already kind of blown an exchange. So if you want to understand how to use the tax code to your advantage at a very sophisticated high level in a way that's simple to understand so that you can build wealth faster, then you're going to love this episode. Let's get into it with Louis Rogers. Louis, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like there's somewhat of a mirror image on the other side as an investor, a coach, a full-time entrepreneur, and you've sold 50,000 copies of your book.
Yeah, it's been around for a minute though, but yes, I guess people like it to some degree.
That's a lot.
But it's like it's this message that I had in me, and I needed to get it out to the millions. Well, it hasn't been millions yet, but that's my message: is financial freedom of real estate. And you wrote a book as well, and it's about tax advantage investing. What made you, Section 1031 exchanges. Now, what made you want to write a book? Because as you know, it's a lot of work, and everybody thinks it's like easy to do, and it's going to bring in millions, which of course neither are true. But I think you got to have a message inside you. So what made you kind of write that book?
Yeah. I come from a real estate family, even though my dad was a large animal veterinarian. You've heard of Smithfield hams?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lived in Smithfield. Every one of those hogs was once touched by my dad in a very squealy way, if you know what I mean.
Oh no.
Yes, we castrated millions of hogs to become Smithfield hams. And I learned from my parents that when you own real estate, you may not be rich, but you always have access to money when you need it.
That's still a counter, right, Louis? Because you say real estate is liquid.
Right. It's illiquid, and that's a positive. When things are liquid, there's a run on the bank, and people do the stock market thing, knee-jerk react, instead of allow time for things to percolate.
Well, that's a good point. And you're not watching some kind of crypto chart every single day to drive you crazy. That is a good point. But I don't know if you actually answered the question, Louis. What made you write the book?
Too many people were making mistakes.
Okay.
And the 1031 exchange sounds daunting, but it's really simple. I mean, it's about the simplest thing you can imagine. If you have appreciated real estate, just real estate, used to be personal property, but Congress took that away in 17 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If you own real estate and it appreciates, when the time comes to sell, you structure a 1031 exchange. Real simple. We can talk about how to do it, but we're talking about spending $1,000 with a qualified intermediary, signing an exchange agreement, and then having the ability to defer the tax by acquiring another qualifying replacement property. And qualifying just means another piece of real estate. When I started as a baby tax lawyer in the spring of, where were you in the spring of '84?
Oh my gosh, I think I was in high school. What were you doing?
I was in a closet called the LexisNexis machine, trying to educate my law firm, national law firm, on what like kind means for real estate. Because technically, you exchange property, like kind property for property of like kind. And the firm had a client who owned a shopping center and wanted to exchange for an apartment building or a hotel or something as a long time ago. And the firm was concerned that like kind might mean like kind.
Yeah.
And what that research showed, how many years ago? Is that 40 years ago? That you can 1031 exchange real estate for real estate. Like kind is very broadly defined. And so an apartment building, a shopping center, land, buildings, retail, power center, Starbucks coffee, you name it, whatever it is, if it's real estate, then it is like kind and you can exchange it. And so I wrote the book because too many people were making the mistake of paying the tax and waking up one day and saying, nobody told me. Why didn't somebody tell me that I know taxes are mandatory, but not really. If you own real estate, capital gains taxes are optional because you can defer the tax by doing an exchange. Our people, we have thousands of investors. We've done $8 billion of 1031 exchanges at Capital Square, my firm. And our investors are serial exchangers. They don't exchange Rice Krispies or Cocoa Puffs. They're serial with an S. They are into a series of 1031 exchanges. Every time a property appreciates to the point of being sold, they structure another 1031 exchange. They hire the QI for $1,000 or so, sign an exchange agreement, and exchange into another replacement property. They defer the tax over and over and over and over again until when?
Until when? Yeah, I mean,
until they drop. When they drop, all this tax forgiveness, it's tax deferral. It's not tax forgiveness. Each exchange must be followed by another exchange or you pay the tax, but it's within your control as the owner. And when the day comes that we meet our maker, our kids will not buy a Lamborghini, but they could because the taxes are essentially forgiven at that point. The basis in the heirs is stepped up to fair market value. And so they can sell that last property typically without federal or state income taxes.
I want to get into the mechanics of it here, but I just have a question here. I mean, just in being around and asking, I'm almost interested in real estate investing in other countries. And what I discovered is that, I don't know, no other country in the world has these tax laws that we have in the United States. Why is the tax law so favorable for real estate investors, you think?
I'm in historic Hanover County, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, and those guys love their real estate. And we favor real estate. We're also one of the few countries where home ownership is the norm, right? It's just ingrained in us, maybe because we were colonists. We came over and we had to, carve out the home place out of the wilderness. And I think it's ingrained in our culture to own real estate. And Congress, in creating the tax code, 1031's been in since 1921. I mean, how long is that?
I don't know.
Over 100 years?
It's something like that. Yeah.
So it's ingrained in us.
So my biggest takeaways from a conversation with Louis Rogers today is 1031 exchanges are simpler than they sound. As he talked about, you're working with a qualified intermediary, cost $1,000, and you're doing a 1031 exchange, and that's pretty cool. The second takeaway is that these DSTs have replaced a tick. Now, this is very interesting because it's something that I don't even know about because we've done ticks, and we are aware of some of the limitations that he talked about. We're going to look at the DSTs, and you should do the same thing. So check out his book, and I certainly will as well. And there is a way off the 1031 exchange treadmill, and this is one of the biggest, the biggest feedback I have for 1031 exchanges, because every time you exchange, you have to be an active investor. And so this is why exchanging into a syndication like we do is so attractive. So we love that. But back to Lewis's point, at one point, you don't even want to do that because now you have to actually do a transaction. You have to get into it, get out of it. You have to identify a new one. And so aligning yourself with one of these REITs is really very interesting as well. So check out his book. I certainly will, because a lot of stuff in there I've not heard before, and hopefully you can use it to exchange your way all the way to the very end of your life, and then the tax basis is reset for your heirs, which is just absolutely amazing. Bottom line with all of this, guys, is real estate has amazing tax advantages that you don't get anywhere else. So you got to work with the right team, though. You got to have the right CPA on board. And if your CPA does not understand bonus depreciation or anything like that, it's okay to keep them for whatever you're doing right now, but find yourself a real estate-minded CPA. It makes a huge difference. And then put people like Lewis on your team to kind of work on these higher-level tax strategies as well. If you take nothing else, remember this: taxes are optional. That's what Lewis says. And but paying them too soon, of course, is use the code to your advantage and keep building wealth. A great next step here is obviously Lewis's book, so check that out as well. If you want to find out more about investing actively or passively in multifamily real estate, go to thefreedompodcast.com. It's a great way. We have a course on how to get into the syndication business as an active investor. We also have a free course on learning more about investing passively as well. So check it out. It's thefreedompodcast.com. Hope you got value today's episode. Catch you next time.